Hey, this is Jen Johans at filmintuition.com and filmintuition on social media and Letterboxd. And this is Watch with Jen. All right. Well, I've always enjoyed talking to Roxana, and we go deep. We get really soulful when we talk. Roxana Hadadi is one of our great writers. I think, of like the top 5 people writing about pop culture today. That is Roxana. I cannot recommend her stuff enough. I'm always like, where's the Pulitzer nomination here? Seriously. I'm like, I'm ready to like get on the phone for you and Bilga and a few other people.
Yeah,
it's like,
we're going to go to war.
Guys. Yes.
We're going to do it. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. We were talking off air and I'm ready to take that step on her behalf. Yes. And so it is so good to have you back. How are you doing, my friend?
Thank you so much. I'm doing okay. It is, as we were talking about, we're like getting to the middle of the year. I think all of us are needing like a reset. I'm almost needing like a factory reset button on this year, which is why I was so excited to hop on this and to talk about some movies that I think we have a lot that we could say.
Yeah.
An actor that I think we could, dissect at length. So I'm doing okay, but how are you doing? Aside from the declarations of war on the Pulitzer Committee.
Yes.
How are you doing?
Exactly. Yeah. I'm going to get on a list there, but that's fine.
Yeah, it's fine.
That's fine. Yes. But other than that, I've been hanging in. I've been doing a lot of podcasting back to back to back. I just recorded an episode of the B-side with Connor and Dan on Goldie Hawn. So it was really fun to revisit talking about a reset. Like, I get to watch some, great Goldie movies there. Of course, I pick like Deceived, the thriller Goldie. But it was, that was a lot of fun and just hanging in. And, other than that, I think we're all just kind of keeping our head down and doing the best we can right now. Just keep swimming, basically.
I mean, that's pretty much it. I feel like Goldie is such a good choice, though, for this current era of like, are comedies funny? Do we have
That's such a good point. And I also couldn't help but think, how perfect is that? Because we're going to be talking about a movie with her daughter.
Yeah, no, I think
so. Look at that. We're just syncing things up.
Very synchronous.
Totally planned. No.
Yes. Excellent.
Yes. Not at all. Yes. But when we were kicking around ideas, this is an idea we had thought of, for years. I think we are both huge fans of Riz Ahmed. I'm trying to remember, I think it was 4 Lions or maybe The Night of. One of those two. I can't remember which order I saw those in, where you just immediately are, especially The Night of. But I do remember him in 4 Lions, and I think I had to review it around that time. Just, he blew me away. It was just like unbelievable talent, charisma. I think he does so much with his eyes, the amount of integrity that he has, his good works. I think he is a remarkable, light of his generation. Yeah.
Yeah, I think all of that is correct, and I strongly co-sign. I'm trying to think of what the first thing I saw him in was, and I'm pretty sure that it was Reluctant Fundamentalist.
Okay, yeah.
And I am thinking if I'm remembering my own life story correctly. I remember I read Reluctant Fundamentalist in grad school. It was like assigned reading in like what was it called? Third World Literature? I think it might have been like Third World Literature or like Literature of Dissent. It was a fantastic class that I took at AU. And I remember reading the book, and then I think it must have been a couple years later that I saw the movie and doing like a Mira Nair, like broad, comprehensive, like let me watch all of Mira, like all the time.
Oh my God, I love her. Yes.
Love her. And I'm sure that we will talk about this moment when we talk more in depth about
Yeah.
this film, but there is one moment in this movie that I remember when I read it on the page sort of blew me away. And when I saw it and I saw what Riz did with his face and how he conveyed this
Yeah.
very emotionally complicated moment, I was like,
Yeah.
oh, this is gonna be somebody that I'm like very interested in following his career. And then I think after that it was the night of. And like I don't, as a TV critic, I will say not most TV is bad because that's not true and that's not fair.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that we are in a time where we are just so like franchise, IP, all of these like very known quantities. And I'm not saying anything new or like revolutionary. We've been complaining about this problem like since the dawn of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But like HBO used to
Oh my
be
gosh. Yes.
like a Sunday night drama that would like kick you on your ass, right? Like the
Yeah.
type of acting where you were like, oh, I can't see this anywhere else on
Mm-hmm.
television. Like I can't see this type of story on any other network or channel.
No.
And now we're doing like a decade-long Harry Potter adaptation on HBO.
I know.
So the times have changed.
Yes.
Different things are different now. But yeah, the night of where you're just like, oh my God, like who is this soulful young actor going toe to toe with Michael K. Williams, like one of his
I know.
generation's greats, right? So it was
Yeah.
definitely the night of that made me think like, again, holy shit, like what an actor of great like interiority and
Yes.
quiet. Like we talk a lot about actors just like aren't good at being quiet anymore.
No. Yeah, he is a quieter actor. Yeah, and especially, I mean, I love the movies of the 70s, but it was a shouty decade, and I think some of the actors after that learned the wrong lessons from some of those movies. And yeah, that is one thing. I know I talk about it all the time, but it is true that he thinks in character. It's very easy for actors to just tap into the, oh, I'm supposed to be like pissed off here. And so they make a face instead of, and with Riz, you can really see him doing the thought processes of the dialogue he's speaking as he's really listening and absorbing what other people are saying. And he seems to be one of those actors that you hear like Michael Douglas and people talk about where they say, you can tell if an actor is worth their salt and if he really cares, or she, if when you're off camera, if they're giving it back to you. And he said that the best actors are actually doing a better performance off camera, like for the next person. And he's like, I'm not going to name names, and he was pointing out, he was talking about Wonder Boys and especially, acting opposite, like Robert Downey Jr. is going to do that for you. And I think Riz especially does that. Like he makes everybody better in a scene. And as you pointed out, he's going toe to toe with like John Turturro, all these amazing actors. Yeah.
Yes. I love that story that you just told because if I am remembering correctly, so I had the pleasure of interviewing Riz for this like video series we do at Vulture. It's like mostly like a text series. It's called a roll call where you're talking to someone like very in depth about a very specific early role in their filmography.
Yeah.
And so he came to our studio and we talked about NIGHTCRAWLER. And he talked about Jake Gyllenhaal doing exactly what you just described, which is like Gyllenhaal being present for coverage, like staying in character so that Riz had something to like work off of.
Yeah.
Like that is exactly to your point. Like the best actors will want to spend as much time with their characters as possible, and they will do that for their scene partners. I also think Jake Gyllenhaal went really method on NIGHTCRAWLER.
Yes, he did. Yes.
I think that poor Riz Ahmed is just
probably went through it. Yeah.
Probably really went through it with Jake.
Yeah.
But yeah, it feels like he is someone who and I'm going to make more broad, sweeping generalizations. Um, Feels like one of those British actors who is like thoroughly trained and very like studied in terms of what does an actor do? Like, what are the methods that I could be doing here? What are the techniques? What's the actual like skill set that
Yeah.
you are working with? And I love that that is, I think, present even in, I don't want to say like the goofier things, but like he did the first Venom movie, right? Like he's the
Yeah.
bad guy in the first Venom movie. He's a guy in a Bourne movie. Like he definitely
Yeah.
bounced around stuff. Of course, he is in Rogue One, a Star Wars
Yes.
story. As
Fingernails. He's in a
yeah,
lot of things. Yeah.
he's in a lot of stuff. Rogue One, I really do think that his character name might be my favorite Star Wars name, Bodhi Rook.
Okay.
Exceptional. Yeah, exceptional Star Wars name.
Hmm.
But yeah, it's like he's bounced around sort of in a lot of like blockbustery things, but it certainly has felt since the Sound of Metal Best Actor Oscar nom, he's been doing like some more unexpected, smaller, quieter things. But I would love to, I think maybe the best way to do this is what you said, which is to do it chronologically because I want to hear what you have to say about Four Lions, which was one of his early breakthroughs.
Yes, I have not seen it in forever, but I do remember him being great in that and listening to you talk about his performance and it being studied. And I think, if I think about my favorite actors, I'm one of those nerds who like, when I worked for DVD Netflix, I wrote deep dives on like David Morse and Elias Koteas because I like those guys. And I feel like that is kind of the actor that Riz is. I mean, he's incredibly gorgeous, of course, but he, just Elias too, but like, David's striking, yeah. But, they have the
All
actor
of
thing
these
going
men
on.
are hot. Let's just
Yes,
say they're all hot.
HOT. That's why they're on the big screen. And yes, but what I wanted to say is you can tell like people want to be in a movie because Jesse Plemons is in it, or all the directors sit up and they want to work with Ben Foster, or they want to work with these names of people who, you see them and you just know, like Jake Gyllenhaal, he's going to commit 110% to his roles. And I feel like Riz is one of those people that directors take seriously, actors take seriously. And I feel like he had that respect right out of the gate. So right out of school, I think the first thing he did was something for Winterbottom, but I did not see it.
Mm-hmm.
And then Four Lions, I think he treats every role, like even the sillier stuff like Venom or Rogue One, with the same level of preparation and interest. And, he isn't just, that old Michael Caine joke of like, you did this movie. Well, it wasn't great, but man, did it buy my mom a lovely house,
Right,
basically.
right. Yeah.
He's really not doing that. I think he is treating every role as if it is Hamlet, essentially. And I
Yeah.
think that's an interesting way to go about it. But he doesn't seem pretentious about it,
Mm-hmm.
which, if you listen to him talk about his performances and stuff, it is something I do like. Yeah, he has a sense of humor about himself still.
Yeah. I think something that um to me feels pretty, how to phrase this. This is not meant to be an insult to you, Jen. It is simply meant to be something that I'm going to say.
Okay.
I'm going to do the as a brown person.
Oh, you're fine. No. Yeah.
As a brown
Yeah.
person. Like I think something that is really interesting, and I think this gets exactly to what you were saying, is I think that he came up in a time where, and this is only like a decade ago, maybe like
I
15,
know.
like 20
Like
years
the
ago
Emmy.
max. Yeah,
Yes.
like 20 years ago when you were getting more opportunities
Yep.
for brown, and by brown I mean like Middle Eastern, South
Yep.
Asian, Arab, Muslim, the, you know, the Swana part of the world. And so like he comes up in this time where he is playing mostly, I don't want to say mostly, but probably what's being offered to him
Yes, you're
is
right.
a lot of terrorist stuff,
Yes.
right? And like David Dastmalchian has talked about this. Like David Dastmalchian is half Iranian. He's talked about like he was just getting all these offers like based on his last name, where he was like, why would I
Yep.
play this character? And I think that is very much the environment in which Riz like starts acting. And one of the first like big breakthroughs that he has is The Road to Guantanamo, where he is playing like, you know, someone who is detained. And
Yeah.
it is like an international story, and it is about 9/11, and it is about all the terrible things that like people and governments and regimes were able to do to brown people after 9/11. And
Yeah.
so like he comes into doing these roles where it's
Post
like
9/11. Yeah.
post 9/11, like I have to like represent my community and my religion. Like he is Muslim,
Yeah.
he talks about being Muslim all the time. And so there's very much this like responsibility that is happening within the early roles. And I say all that because Four Lions, for people
Yes.
who don't know,
Yes.
is a satire about
That's
5 men who decide like, oh, we should become like
bombers.
jihadists.
Yeah.
Right? We should become suicide bombers. And they go to be trained at like a suicide bomber camp. And it is ridiculous, right?
Yeah.
So funny. It is co-written by Jesse Armstrong, who people know will have
From
gone on to do
Succession.
Succession.
Yes.
So
Which we talked about. We're bringing it back.
yes. So it has this like incredibly dry, deadpan satire about how like stupid these men are,
Yes.
right? But also like really lonely. Again, as like
it's almost anticipating the male loneliness epidemic.
100%, because there's like, here are these brown men in like a post 9/11 world. They are looking for like friendship, and they find it at this like suicide bomber camp. It is ludicrous, but it is so effective in its satire, because like Riz and the other actors in this movie, including Kayvon Novak, who people might know from What We Do in the Shadows, they're walking this line of like really tender vulnerability and really like stupid machismo aggression. And I just think it's so interesting to like look at Riz's career and be like, on the one hand, he was doing these like, I'm going to represent my community in like a really proud, like dignified way that shows how we were misunderstood and like abused and harmed and all of these things. And then on the other hand, I am going to do this like ridiculous political satire. That takes aim at the stereotypes that people have. And so I just think it was like a very interesting way to start his career, and I think told us a little bit about like the parallel paths that he was going to go on as an actor, doing a lot of like brown centric stuff. And then also doing some stuff where like it didn't matter at all that he is like a Pakistani Muslim man, right? He is just playing characters who, yes, that's an element of it, because like your culture and your ethnicity and your heritage and your race and your religion are always going to be a part of who you are, but they're not the focal point. And so I just think, as a brown person, I look at his career and I'm like, this is so interesting that he's doing both, and he's doing both all the time. And
he really is. Yeah. He talked about the Riz test, which is like 5 questions of, you know, is the Muslim character, also is he misogynistic towards women, and then is the woman oppressed? Like he had a whole list, and it was kind of being linked up to his work, and I found that really interesting. But like what you were saying, I mean, it's so true, and it's totally different, obviously, but Italian relatives of mine, they talk about the same thing. And we had differing attitudes too, with the film roles. And we were always the bad guy, or, it was the dark hair or whatever it was. And Paul Sorvino not wanting to play another gangster or that kind of thing. And Danny Aiello too, because he loves lounge singing and he's funny and charming. And so it's kind of like what you're able to get. I remember talking to Alessandro Nivola about this, and he was saying how his relatives from Italy, they did not want him to be, like, he never watched The Sopranos.
Right, so then when he was cast in that movie, it was like,
and so he was not sure if it was going to be a betrayal or what he should do, and and he had all of these, it's a brilliant show, but so it does kind of raise the responsibility sort of that you feel to your culture and your people, and also in the time period of how are we being treated and what's going on. And I do love that about Riz. He can take the quote unquote like colorblind casting roles and then also, work in some really interesting undertones and also make us think about how we're depicting people of the Eastern era or area.
And I think what was so interesting, what he told me about sort of the broadening, so he felt like he had done a lot of this like representation sort of stuff when working in the UK, and like he also is like a rapper and a musician, and a lot of his early music was very much about these same sort of like, I don't want to necessarily say like assimilation, but like cultural friction and what are the
and like at Oxford too.
Yes, what are the expectations of like the broader culture on you as like a minority group? So all of that stuff was like stewing. It's all clearly very important to him, like you said. But what he told me was like he wasn't getting work at a certain point, right? And Idris Elba was like, you need to go to the US.
Yeah, that's
because
interesting.
they care a little bit less over there about some of these things, and you probably will get cast in something, and that is what inspired him to go out for Nightcrawler. And then Nightcrawler opened him up to like more of an American audience and to playing these roles that are less like brown guy in panel.
Exactly.
So interesting. I love that Idris was the one who was like, hey,
all right, Idris,
you should go do that, which is so funny.
Another one of our phenomenal actors, my God.
100%. Another one of our phenomenal actors, and like again,
underused.
Do I think that he probably has many homes funded by Thor and the Fast and the Furious franchises? Yes. Do I also think that Idris could probably do something different and better?
Yeah.
Also, yes.
Yes. Sometimes it's just like, you're playing with the Backstreet Boys, and sometimes you're with Bruce Springsteen. So that's what actors, it's like you're joining a circus and you don't know what you're going to get. And sometimes you're there with the people who are the Bruce Springsteen or whatever, and it just doesn't work. So you never know. And I think, Riz definitely, he really cares about the roles that he's doing. I think some of those were probably also, let's give kids that are Muslim, a Star Wars character. And I love that too. I feel bad for the people that made the Star Wars movies in the decade and the fandom turning on them and going nuts. But yeah. So, starting out, let's see, chronologically, is it Reluctant Fundamentalists? I remember seeing it in the theater. I'm a huge fan of Mira Nair. When I ran a film discussion series over at Scottsdale Public Library, I was trying to introduce, I had kind of a few different goals behind the scenes, like the character actors, like I showed him the station agent for like Peter Dinklage, or 310 to Yuma for for Ben Foster, and like I was trying to slide in Nicolas Cage and Matchstick Men, like different things like that. But then I also wanted to show them other cultures. And so I did Monsoon Wedding, and I think that might have been the biggest hit with the like gray-haired senior set in Scottsdale. Oh my God. I had people come up to me after like, who is this filmmaker? And they were going to seek her out. And so I was very excited. So I remember going, and it was a big event, like, you know, I rewatched Mississippi Miss, all of those to go see Reluctant Fundamentalist. I think I liked it more back then than I do now, I think, but he is amazing. And I do feel, as much as I love Kate Hudson, I think maybe it's the way her character is written. She might be a little miscast, or maybe she wanted to do more with her, but I feel like either the character isn't drawn very well, or not a lot of three-dimensional. She's just kind of there.
She's just there is exactly
right. And
Mm-hmm.
I feel like some of the exposition that comes out about her backstory comes out in really clunky exposition dump style, like the confrontational, like, you just drove the car, you know, it's like, where did that come from? Yeah. And so I did feel like watching it this time, like, I don't know, but Riz and Liev Schreiber, and you're like, well, you're locked in on them. Yeah.
Yes. Okay, so I want to share what like the plot is, which is that it is based on this book by Mohsin Hamid, and basically the general plot is that, like, well, I will say the movie plot, which is that Liev Schreiber is, in the movie they make him a journalist, right? Because in the book he is just like a stranger who encounters this character. But in the movie he is like explicitly a journalist, and he is traveling to meet with Riz, who is playing this like resistance leader, maybe leader, Cengiz. And then under the guise of this interview, Cengiz is like sharing his story of how he became disillusioned with America and became this like cultural leader advocating against American imperialism in Pakistan. So it is very much like, in some ways, very much a two-hander just between the two of them. And like, I love Liev in that mode. Like, he's so good at being skeptical.
He is, yeah. I think he's also a great filmmaker, and part of me, every time I see Liev, I'm like, he likes working with people like Mir Nair, you know, because you see everything is illuminated. And I'm also like, do more of this. Enough with the fucking AI ads there, Liev.
Oh my God. Yes. Oh God. But yes, so part of it is this like two-hander where he's like questioning Cengiz, and he's like, how did you get to be the person that you are today? And then we have, to your point, like all of these flashbacks of like Cengiz living through 9/11, and he had come from this like educated family. He went to Princeton. He was, as to go back to a buzzword, he was like nearly assimilated within the US. And
Wall Street.
Yes, Wall Street, successful. And then 9/11 happens. And the scene that I want to talk about, or this moment that I want to talk about, is 9/11 happens. Cengiz is watching the news coverage, like his face on the television screen with the two towers on fire are like reflected in each other. And it's almost like against his will. It's almost like reflexively Cengiz, while watching this news coverage, smiles. And it's this moment that comes like out of nowhere, because even though he has been introduced to us as this resistance leader, the backstory of his life up until that point does not signal.
No.
Like, you would watch a terrorist attack and you'd be like, this pleases me.
Yes. I know, it's like a complicated, we see the set of emotions that goes through him. Yeah.
And it raises these like incredible questions, which I'm not sure the movie can fully answer because of things like Kate Hudson being miscast.
Yeah.
It raises sort of these like incredible questions about like, if you grow up in a place that is negatively shaped by American foreign policy, and if that is around you your entire life, like how much of that resentment and pain do you absorb without even knowing? Which I
Yeah.
think is like a really interesting question that I think Riz brings through in that moment and in the rest of this character's like very contradictory journey to becoming this quote unquote terrorist, because it's like every time the US does something to him, which is like racially profiling him or stereotyping him or whatever, it almost becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy where he's like, if you think
Yes.
that's
It
who I
raises a lot of
am,
questions.
yeah,
Yeah.
then like why don't I just become that person? And in conversation with Four Lions, it's a really interesting question about like,
Yeah. You
this
could
idea.
really pair those up with double feature. Look at us programming a theater.
You could
Yeah,
really have an incredibly depressing double feature.
exactly. Holy shit. Yeah.
Holy shit. But like,
Sponsored by Prozac. Yeah.
100%. Sponsored by lithium.
Yeah.
But like, this is a question that was coming up like in the news during the genocide in Gaza, which is still ongoing, and during like the bombing of the girls' school in Iran, which
Oh
is
my
like,
God.
how many terrorists, quote unquote, are you just making through these
Yes.
like
That's the
cycles of
thing.
violence?
Hmm.
Yeah, so this movie, like, I think to your point, probably elements of it do not hold up very well, just because I think some poor casting choices were made, and I think the book's frame is a little more
Yeah. I was going to say more
interesting,
internalized and
I
more.
think.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like, again, Riz, you're just watching him, and this performance is again like he's so urbane and like poised, and that becomes part of the text too, because like Liev Schreiber's character is like, oh, you're not like a illiterate guy yelling in a cave. You're like very charming.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. I mean,
Yes.
we can really program a bleak week here, but
Mm-hmm.
recently for Leslie Byron Pitt, I did photography movies and I watched one of my favorite films of the 21st century, which is City of God.
Mm-hmm.
And the story of Knockout Ned in that, where his girl gets raped and attacked, and it's so brutal, and then his uncle and his brother gets killed, like this whole thing happens. I think it's uncle and brother. And then he becomes a hoodlum, and he was
Yeah.
always a bus driver and never wanted to do anything violent, never wanted to use a gun, anything like that. And it just shows the baby step, like you can be driven to something, and then once you cross the point, it gets easier to cross it again and again. And so you're exactly right with how many times, if we do these extreme things to people, like what happens to Riz's character, being like detained and humiliated and all the stuff that happens to him in this.
Yeah.
And also being weirdly objectified. That whole art museum thing is bizarre. Or art show sequence kind of comes out of nowhere. You can definitely see the complexity with him, and I wanted to see more. What's interesting is around the same time as like the night of, you could almost say they should have made Reluctant Fundamentalist as like a little bit of a mini series.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. Because I think that probably would have allowed
Yes.
the Kate Hudson character to do more.
Yeah.
Maybe not be acted by Kate Hudson. Sorry, Kate Hudson.
Yeah, I know.
Like maybe
I
that
think
would
she
have
would
had
probably even be like, I don't know. Yeah.
maybe that would have had some more time to breathe. Imagine like, I mean, there might be people who would not keep watching, but imagine the like Twin Tower moment as like the cliffhanger to an episode.
Exactly.
Like
Yeah.
structurally, I think
Yeah.
this interview format would have worked.
Hmm.
But like this flopped like really
I
hard.
know.
Like people were not interested in this kind of movie. It makes me think a lot about something like 25th Hour, which
I saw that in the
also
theater. I was the nerd that saw both of these in the theater. Yeah.
respect, Jen. Respect. But these movies that were
And
like,
City of God. Yeah.
hell yeah, dude. But yeah, these movies that were like interrogating what 9/11 was and
Hmm.
how it was being used by many different groups as part of
Yeah.
like an ongoing ideology. And I think that people were not interested in that, especially not with like an actor who at this point, like Americans did not know. This feels like a movie that would have done pretty well in Europe,
I
but
agree.
but
Yeah.
maybe not with like a $15 million budget. That probably still was like pretty high for what
Yeah.
this project was. But I really think it's one that people should revisit. And
Hmm.
I think it's due for like a re-examination, truly, because like Mira has not made a movie in a really long time.
Yeah.
But I think the direction of this is so good. And the performance that she's able to draw out of Riz, still pretty early in his career, is so good.
Hmm. I agree. And now thinking about that, I was remembering my best friend from college who unfortunately I lost before her time, but
Oh, Jen.
one of her favorite filmmakers, I introduced her to Mira Nair. She's kind of like a kid sister. And I remember one of our last conversations, she was like, I saw Hysterical Blindness. That was kind of a mess. And she was talking, but she's like, Mira needs another one, another hit. And I
Yeah.
think this probably, it was around the time of this. I can't remember her thoughts on this one in particular, but we were always like waiting for Mira to get to make another huge, and I loved The Namesake, if I remember right.
Love the namesake.
Yeah, but come
Extremely
on, let's give her
formative.
some stuff. Yeah.
Yes. Namesake is, I don't even think it needs to be re-examined because it was perfect at the time and it remains perfect. Exceptional movie. This, I think, was like so strong.
Hmm.
Queen of Catway,
That was
very
good.
good.
Yeah,
Very good.
solid. Hmm.
No, solid, like a good Lupita picture.
And I think
Um,
beautiful. I think that was probably Declan Quinn again. I
oh my
mean,
God.
yeah,
Yeah, just
she works with the most just vivid cinematographer. Yeah.
yes, incredible. I think, okay, now we're getting off topic and we will return to the Riz at hand.
Yes.
But this is what always makes me laugh when, like, before Zoran was elected, when they were like, Zoran, also a Nepo baby. His mother is this Hollywood director. I'm like, where? Where is
Yeah,
where is,
exactly.
where is, I would love another Mira movie. Where is it? Like,
Yes. Amir is
when
one of
are
the
we getting
funniest
one?
too. Like I still will always remember Spike Lee warning her she wasn't gonna get Denzel's shirt off. And she's like, "Oh, I'll get it off."
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So thank you, Mira and I.
Yes. Thank you, Mira.
Yes, an entire generation thanks you, and
Hmm.
Denzel, I'm sure does. Maybe not now, but like back then, yeah.
Back then,
Yes.
and that's one of the things that I'm most fascinated by. Like, Sarita Chowdhury has obviously talked about making the movie. I did a very long interview with Mira about
Hmm.
Mississippi Masala that ran for Vulture, but like, I don't think Denzel has ever talked about it. And
Yeah.
I'm so curious.
Curious.
There's part of me that's like, has he never talked about it because he didn't enjoy it?
Yeah, you kind of do
What?
wonder.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like what happened there?
Usually they get really selective about stuff like that. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
But like the performance is so good, the movie
Hmm.
is so good. I feel like every 2 months, Twitter like finds the movie again and realizes that
Yes.
everybody in it is extremely hot. But yeah, see Mississippi Masala. That's
Yes.
if there's
And
one thing that this episode does.
yes, watch more Mira and
Yes.
watch more Riz.
Yes.
And of course, Nightcrawler, brilliant movie. I love that he was kind of told by Tony Gilroy right away, like, you're not the right guy for this. And then
Yes.
within a minute of him like reading, he just, nope, he is the right guy for this. And I think there were 80 people that tried out for that role.
Yeah.
He plays the assistant to Jake Gyllenhaal's unhinged wannabe stringer who
Mm-hmm.
becomes like totally gonzo. It
Mm-hmm.
is a huge influence on my friend Jordan Harper, especially his new book, A Violent Masterpiece. There's some night crawling in there, and I think he went night crawling actually, in preparation for it.
Mm-hmm.
It's fascinating because this was in 2014. So like we had smartphones and stuff, but it wasn't as ubiquitous. We weren't TikToking everything or recording everything. We weren't geotagging every move of ours, so like you can stalk people. We didn't have cameras on our glasses.
Google Glass. Yeah, we didn't have
Terrifying.
all of the...
Yeah.
I think exactly what you're saying is right. We had those capabilities,
Yes.
but we hadn't yet fully become like a citizen-supported surveillance state. We were a surveillance state, for sure. Like, the government was watching and listening, for sure.
Yeah.
We didn't have the normalization of, like, the Ring doorbell and, like, people filming all the time on their phones and people recording you without you knowing it.
And then ridiculing you.
Yeah, it was like a shift in the culture that was happening later on. But in this specific moment, like, nightly news and morning news are still king, right? Like,
yes. And basically, it's before everybody became a paparazzi. That's essentially, and it feeds into your worst instincts. I remember, like in taking journalism classes and stuff at the U, and I remember, you know, if it bleeds, it leads.
Yeah.
And some of the conversations they actually have about, you know, if it's an attractive person, if it's a white person, if it's a male, what age, these are the people that alleged, you know, like and we just wanted to make things as shocking as possible. I think it's a little bit of like the people who drive by a car accident and can't help but crane their neck, and the people who listen to all the true crime podcasts and like they want to experience the grisliness because it makes them feel more alive, I think. And here we get the monetization and also just where do the ethics come into play. And yeah, I think it's a great Gyllenhaal performance. I do think he was snubbed that year by the Academy. There are various reasons for that, I'm sure, but you know, he was nominated for everything else pretty much, and he was unbelievably great. Riz too. Those two together, they have such interesting chemistry because their energies are completely opposite. Yeah. I feel like one is kind of going slow-mo and the other is like one is on downers and the other is on uppers. Yeah.
One's on Quaaludes, one's on Coke.
Yeah.
No, that's perfect. That's a perfect way to describe them because it's very much like, and you know, this is another, again, we are finding like so many connective tissues, but like part of Reluctant Fundamentalist is this idea of like, you may critique Islamic fundamentalism as like a bankrupt, amoral ideology, but is that not what like Wall Street capitalism and like American imperialism are? There's like a equivalence there that the film tries to find. And I feel like with this, there is this question of like, okay, like what Lou, Jake Gyllenhaal's character, is doing is like disgusting, right? He is like descending on these crime scenes. He is filming without permission. At one point we see him like break into a house, right?
Yes. Oh my God. That plays like a horror. Yeah.
Yeah, to get footage of like a dead body. Like he is doing all of these horrible things to make a name for himself at the network, but he makes a name for himself at the network. Like he is rewarded for his willingness to go further and to do these like absolutely horrible, heinous
and the sexual blackmail and stuff of the Rene Russo character. Oh my God.
Sexual blackmail with filmmaker Dan Gilroy's real life wife.
Yeah.
Russo. It's like he is rewarded for this. And so it is such a like composite of like, what are the things that we value in the society and like, why are they all decrepit and terrible? Like, what is wrong with us?
What is?
And yes, like Riz as Rick is such a like innocent, like doe in the headlights type of character. We learn basically that he was like a sex worker, right? Because he's like unhoused. He doesn't have any prospects. And so he is like pushed to these like extremes to be able to
and Riz like researched it for a year, I guess.
Yes, he told me that he was like on Skid Row and like interacting with people and observing and sort of like building really out this like backstory for Rick that was about like his loneliness and his isolation. And like Lou is lonely and isolated too. But again, to go back to your like drug analogy, the way that they try to fix that loneliness is like so different. And then it leads to
Yeah.
this like very exploitative, tragic, do anything for content ending that like
Yes.
I won't spoil because like if you
But
haven't seen
oh my
Nightcrawler,
God.
you should. But oh my God, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Yeah. And you almost want to partner this movie up with Network. But
Yes. Oh,
yeah.
so interesting. Yes.
Riz talked about like the amount of people who feel abandoned or have abandonment issues, and you can definitely see that with his willingness to take so much abuse
Yes.
from just the amount of stuff like I'm not going to pay you right away, and then like $20. I don't know. It was just
No.
ridiculous.
That's an incredible scene that we should talk about.
Yeah.
So like he is trying to like haggle.
Yes.
Lou tells him, how much do you think you should be paid?
Oh my God, that's the worst.
He's not paying Rick. Like, he's
Yeah.
treating Rick like an intern. And Rick gives an amount. And Lou is like, you're not asking
Yes.
for enough. You're not valuing yourself enough. And because you're not valuing yourself enough, I'm not going to give you more money.
I know. It's such an asshole-ish like thing.
Such a horrible thing. And my understanding is, I think Riz told me that was improv and that they hadn't like really worked out all of the details about
It's
it yet.
very in character. Yeah.
Yes. So a lot of his like, I don't know how to answer you. I don't know what to say.
Yeah.
Responses were genuine, which I think is incredible. I mean, incredible from Jake as well. Like Jake Gyllenhaal.
Oh yeah.
I think that he's been doing things that I don't understand with his career.
Oh my God. Yes.
But in this moment, very good choice.
Yes, it absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, some of those were were a little off there for a while, but I was like one of the 5 people that enjoyed Gilroy's, was it Velvet Buzzsaw?
Oh, you liked Velvet Buzzsaw.
Yeah, at the
Jen.
time, I think I was one of 5, but not
Yeah,
like
I think so.
love, but I did like it a little more. But like this is a different, oh my God, this is like a masterpiece. And it's
Yes.
one that I think plays even better the second time around. It's so uncomfortable the first time. And I'm not saying you're coasting through it the second time, but it's just kind of good to see where things pay off, because then you start paying attention to little things throughout it. That whole sequence, and again, thinking about Jordan's books, like, things that come up, but where he creeps in, and it's almost like a horror movie. Like it's almost like we're walking into an aftermath of like the Polanski or Sharon Tate or some kind of thing like that, or those horrible, was it John Holmes? Those killings way back, and just walking in and filming and around and then going towards a crib, and you're dying. And it reminds me of that thing in Funny Games where they turn to the camera like, why are you watching? Yeah. And you start asking yourself very uncomfortable questions, which I like. And, they say at Hollywood, oh, we need somebody to root for, and there's nobody to root. Yeah, this is also, we haven't even talked about Bill Paxton in this. And oh my God.
You talk.
I will probably start crying. Bill Paxton sent me an email once. Yeah, forever ago. He said, he read something I wrote, and, I won't say like completely what because I feel like if you write somebody a private email, like, keep it private, but it was basically that I made his day. And then he did joke, he's something like, the day just started, but it's yours right now. Or, like, it was very, very funny and sweet. And I guess he wrote a couple other friends, like a Rolling Stone friend and another. And so I love that. So Bill Paxton, he did read, he did care. And this was kind of a cool return for Bill to play a bit darker. Like it isn't, the guy in Apollo 13 or, it's a different role. But yet he isn't quite as bad as Lou, and so I love that. Yeah, that there's levels in this. And I think you also, because it's Bill Paxton, it surprises the hell out of you. You're like, what did the guy from Twister just say? Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
I think exactly to your point, so much of what the movie is interrogating also is like, what happens when you lose the professionals who are doing a thing and you are bringing in people who maybe do not have like the full ethical training and who are willing to help lower standards. Because Renee Russo's character is like chasing ratings, like she's willing to break the rules to remain relevant in her career. And like Lou is willing to do things that Bill Paxton's character won't do.
Exactly. He crosses. Yeah.
There's also this like larger sort of like degradation of news, but also just like degradation of how we live and how we treat each other.
Yes. What do you owe each other just as people? Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I was not a Velvet Buzzsaw person, but I think
no, I would.
Yeah. Not implying that you were like, hell yeah, Velvet Buzzsaw. But I think that part of that is still there.
Exactly. I feel like, you might want to watch those. Yeah.
Yeah. But all of this leads us to, what do you say? Are you going to call it Riz's like masterpiece performance, or
I would say my favorite performance ever, I might actually say The Night Of, just because of how much we see, but then I'd have to go, actually I think I'd go Sound of Metal. If we're talking film, I'm going Sound of Metal, small screen or first hat, but this is up there. This is like just a baby hair behind Sound of Metal. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I think because again, it is like so different from the rest of his career, but again, captures this like very vulnerable thing that he does very well with like his eyes and his body and how he carries himself. And I think Sound of Metal is probably the best expression of that vulnerability.
I agree. He's even quieter. So, which I love. Yeah. I mean, it kind of has to be, but, yeah, I feel like he's a puppy dog in this a little, and he's also, he knows things are wrong, but he doesn't know how to assert himself, and there's a lot going on there with, Jake is supposed to dominate so much, and I think in Sound of Metal, because it's, a sparse soundscape, sparse cast, I think he just comes forward more. I have a personal connection to the whole disability angle, but I think, it's a perfect meld of actor and performance. Yeah. And I read about some of the actors that were and like Matthias, is it Schoenaerts? Yeah, he's amazing.
He's great.
Yeah, but it'd be a different movie. And it's hard when you see something like the performance by Riz to think of anyone else.
100%. Yeah. I think that's such an interesting comparison because like Matthias is, okay, now we're going to get into body critiques of actors. But I think that like Riz is also very interesting as a leading man because he has not become the like muscular, beefy, super like HGH dude, which is not to say that Matthias has, but Matthias is like taller and larger framed and like just a different body type. And so I think there's also something about the way that like Riz uses his like leanness and his slightness.
He's almost posing more. It's fragility. There's you can see him trying, like, being tough or
Yes.
trying to be tough because of the way he holds himself. Yeah.
Yes, I think there's more actual like manipulation of physicality
Yeah.
in what
That's
he's
great.
doing. And especially in this movie where he has to play a drummer who is someone who is like like I don't know how drummers do what they do, honestly. Like they are phenomenally strong. They are like the backbone of a band. Their forearms are literally horrifying. And so there is like this reliability and like dependency that comes through their bodies, which I
Hmm.
think is really interesting. And I think you get that in this film. And then, of course, like as he loses his hearing, it changes, I think, how he, of course, relates to that sense, but also I think relates to like the entirety of his physical frame. And I think that comes through in this movie as he is learning sign language, as he is learning, like, oh, the reverberations I can feel throughout my body rather than just feel or hear. So I think there's just a lot, like, on the level of what is he doing with not just his face? Because he's a great face and eye actor, as we've talked
He
about.
really is.
He can do these expressions where you're like, oh wow, like you just by listening cracked open a part of my heart that I was unaware of. But what he's doing with like behind the drum set and in this sort of like school slash camp that he enrolls in to like learn sign language, I just think there's a lot of really phenomenal depth and introspection to this performance that I always think is like really astonishing whenever I go back to it.
Yeah.
Um,
I think the idea of making him a drummer was especially brilliant because there's the joke that I just saw a few weeks ago, and it is kind of a, in Spinal Tap, they go through drummers, and there's the joke about every band, especially like indie bands, are always looking for a little bit better of a drummer.
yeah.
And so there's this idea where he's constantly like, treading water and just,
Mm-hmm.
we're going to survive. We're going to get to the next town. We got to sell enough t-shirts. We got to make it to the next gig. We got to do this. And I'm going to risk my hearing and not tell my lover slash bandmate when things are going south because, we got to keep going. We got to keep going. And it's sort of like he's doing it a little bit as a recovering addict, like it's his new
Yeah.
addiction.
Yeah.
But also it's a tempo thing because he's a drummer. So it's, 4/4, it's like he's counting super fast. And then when he has to slow down, he's suddenly in like waltz time.
Mm-hmm.
And then he needs to, sit for an hour with his journal, like that whole thing. And it's a weird experience. I was hospitalized last year, got really sick with this new autoimmune disease. And one of the things, because, it was just my body was like attacking itself, is they said, okay, phone does dopamine and it's like just too much. So you got to go off the phone. And so just for like a day or two, like kind of let your body regulate. And at first it's so weird because we're so used to having just, something in front of us every 10 seconds, 20 seconds, whatever it is, especially us as writers, because we're always
Yeah.
constantly feeding our brains and little ADHD and all of that. And then after a few hours, you're like, maybe I don't want to be on the phone. Maybe I don't. And so I love that realization of something is forced upon him, which is what happens when you get a disability or a disease. And you go through all the stages and it always affects your relationships. Even if the person you're with is like, oh, I'll be there, it's going to get a little dicey. And you just kind of have to get into this new rhythm. And
Mm-hmm.
so I like that about his character because he's still figuring it out at the end and it feels real. It doesn't feel like, oh, you're going to have to help me, Roxana. It was the best picture from a few years ago.
Coda?
I hated Coda. I'm
Yeah.
just going to say it.
Yeah.
Like, I love the people involved and I hope they do other great things, but oh my God, it just felt so manipulative and so like, let's make these people cartoon characters who just can't stop
Mm-hmm.
fucking each other and just like, it was so ridiculous. And I just felt like, obviously we're not a monolith. There are a million types of disabled people, but it was almost like trying to play for the hearing audience and be acceptable and creepy and cutesy. Mm-hmm. Whereas this, it's like you could see them really wanting to get it right and really show you what it is. And so I love this idea of drumming and the way the film actually slows down too.
Yeah, I think that is such an astute and beautiful and personal analysis. And I want to thank you for sharing.
Oh, of course.
And I think
Rox, you're one of my besties. Come on.
And I think the other thing that you're really like touching on here, and this is sort of like a broader thing about like this industry, is like it took years to make this movie, right?
Yeah.
Like Darius Marder.
Oh my gosh, yes.
For like literal years, struggling to find funding. He was like working with Derek Cianfrance on like Place Beyond the Pines. He's talked a lot about like Riz's character Ruben was sort of like spiritually similar to Gosling's character in Place Beyond the Pines. And so you get that this man has done so much research like on.
And it's from a personal place, like his grandma, too.
Yes. Yeah. So it's like he's done so much research about like various arms of the deaf community. How do they see themselves? How do they think others perceive them?
Yeah.
There's so much like work that went into this movie. And I think Riz's performance is obviously phenomenal. I think he should have won the Oscar, but
I do too.
it's surrounded by a movie that you're also like, oh, every part of this feels really intentional.
Yeah.
When I talked to Darius, he told me that like they had been planning 2 movies, where the first movie is like Ruben's perspective and the second movie is Olivia Cook's character's perspective.
Okay. Who's also Lou.
Who's also Lou. So they had wanted to do 2 movies and then of course couldn't get enough funding to do 2 movies, but like a lot of extra footage exists. So I just think it's one of those movies that feels incredibly rare for this era of movie making. I'm so happy that it's in the Criterion Collection because again,
and my brilliant friend Roxana wrote just the best essay. My God, I love it.
Yeah. Even if I didn't do the essay, which if I didn't do the essay, I would find the Criterion people and be like, how dare you? But like it hits everything I expect from like a current era Criterion movie. And so the fact that Darius Marder hasn't done anything else, because I'm sure he can't get funding in this stage of whatever Hollywood is highly depressing to me. Like just
really is
really shameful stuff.
I agree.
Behalf of the industry.
Yeah. And I think the timing sucked because through no fault of its own, it was like 2019 and then the pandemic and then the release got delayed and stuff. But yes, Olivia Cook, I love that her character's Lou. So we have 2 movies where he's in conversation with Lou. The dynamic between those 2 is so strong and so good.
Paul Raci, we haven't even talked about Paul Raci.
Oh my God, Paul Raci. Holy shit. Like,
I know.
How is that guy not in everything? Yeah, again, because, Hollywood being what it is and he's disabled and all of that, but he was the most fascinating. Like, I was like, this feels like a guy who, I'm going to sound pretentious as hell, but, would have been a character in a short story in Tim O'Brien's The Things They Carried, which is like maybe my favorite book of but like his character, he'd been a non-vet, he'd been through everything and, or maybe it was race. I don't remember, but, he has like, as soon as he walks on screen, he's got gravitas and you buy his shit like right away. Yeah. It's almost like, I have a lot of friends that are in recovery and I've, dated people who have been, and it's almost like, when you go to a meeting, there's like the new people walking in scared. And then there's that dude who's like seen everything. This guy, he's able to call Riz's character out on bullshit, like within a couple seconds because nobody is as charming and lying and, faking it like an addict or something. And so it's interesting, like then later you seem like an addict even though he's not using, which is really interesting. Yeah, I love his character.
Paul Raci is great. Again,
he got nominated, right?
Yeah, he did. Like, put the man in literally everything.
Yeah. Hang it in the Louvre, as they say online. or the other one, like, put it in my veins, which that always creeps me out.
And yet it is appropriate, unfortunately, for what we're discussing here. In our last few minutes together, do you have any other Riz projects that you want to quickly shout out?
I was going to ask you that. Yeah.
I think that the two that I would say are Relay, which is from Hell or High Water director David Mackenzie. I think that...
Oh, that was an interesting one. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's going to be on Netflix for a little while, so hopefully by the time this comes out, it is still on Netflix. But he basically plays sort of like a fixer middleman for whistleblowers.
Yeah. And it's like a Le Carré kind of thing going on.
100%. And it's like the first 20 minutes of this movie are like entirely silent. Like, I don't think he speaks for the first 20 minutes, something bizarre and wonderful like that. So I would say Relay is really good. I think the last 5 minutes are bad, but I think it's a very good movie. And Riz is very good. And then I would say Hamlet. Like, Hamlet.
I haven't seen it yet. I wanted to hear. I'm glad you brought that up, Roxana.
Yes. Hamlet is like his passion project. It came out in the UK earlier this year. It got a very small US release from Vertical, and I think should be on digital soon. But like, every actor wants to do Hamlet, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it is the role. I think Riz is one of the few people I've seen recently who has really done something different. The conceit is that it is like mostly a South Asian community, and it is like Ophelia and Laertes who are white. And so yes, there are these like racial, cultural dynamics, but you also have Riz doing all of the stuff that we've talked about that he does so well, like the internalness, the physicality, this sort of like chip on his shoulder quality that he brings to a lot of performances, bringing that to Hamlet. It's like, I don't know, it's very much the kind of thing where I was like, this is catnip for people who love this type of thing. And I think, Jen, that you would love that.
Oh, I can't wait now.
So I'm so excited for you to see it.
Ah, wonderful. Well, I want to thank you. I've kind of monopolized your evening, but it's always a joy. And I want to thank you so much for doing this. You have to come up with another topic, another passion project, and we can, talk for hours again. So
yes, we got to do it. Thank you so much for inviting me to talk about this. It's always such a joy, and I love seeing your face, and that's all from me.
I also want to thank everyone for listening, especially my patrons who support the show and help fund my research, equipment, film rentals, RSS fees, and more for as little as $1 per month at the Film Intuition Patreon, which is the home base for the show. Other ways you can support the podcast are by sharing, reviewing, and subscribing to Watch with Jen wherever you get your podcasts, and also checking out the cool merch store hosted and created by our talented logo designer, Kate Gabrielle. You can find the merchandise store, including shirts, tote bags, stickers, and more by visiting filmintuition.com and clicking on the shop link. The show's theme music is Solo Acoustic Guitar by Jason Shaw and is available in the Free Music Archive. Well, until next time, please take care and happy movie watching. This is Jen Johans at filmintuition.com and Film Intuition on social media and Letterboxd. And this is Watch with Jen.